Into the Dark Dungeon Silver Mine. Welcome back for another preview video on crowdfunding. Today I'm very excited to discuss with you a new game that's seeking funding, and it's called Into the Dungeon Silver Mine. It's a game about, in an essence, it's a compact dungeon crawler that fits in a tiny box with a ton of value and different modes and ways to play the game. The game really caught me by surprise by its, I should say, aesthetics and dark but very carefully crafted art that fits like a glove to the theme. It's a dungeon crawler. So for those of you who enjoy dungeon crawling games with the typical, heroes going into the depths of the dungeon, but in a very compact format, this is a game that they should definitely check it out. For me, I was blown away by the amazing replayability of the game. Not to mention the different modes of the game. It plays with a different dungeon altogether that actually it's built on the back of cards, and the combinations are endless, so you can be trying different sessions for quests, or you can be playing campaigns and series and tournaments using this system. It's a very sleek, robust, straightforward system, so not a lot of things to bog you down and make you check rules and come back to check differences and stats, etc. Straightforward, with a lot of depth, a lot of interesting choices, but with an overall dungeon crawling fast flow element that blends together with the aesthetics and the appearance on the table of the game. Not to mention that it comes always in a very tiny box, which can come everywhere with you. You just need the surface, and then you have endless amounts of endless dungeons and endless dungeon crawling hours for you to explore. So I'm going to add a link in the description for the video for Pyramid Games. It's a company that does a lot of different things. This is their first hard copy, physical copy attempt. They have done different things on Kickstarter. They also do a lot of RPG maps and different things, but I'm going to let it for you to explore. I'm going to add the link in the description of the video so that you can follow the campaign page, and I'm going to add timestamps in the description of the video so that you can jump directly to my final opinion of the game, or to different setup, how you play, the actions, etc. through the course of the explanation of the rules. I'm going to replace the rulebook for you, so you'll be able to see examples of combat and everything you need to know to play the game and understand fully if it's something that it's suitable for you. And I'm going to come back at the end of this video for more thoughts and more first impressions about my sessions with the game so far. Spoiler, I already loved it. I think it packs so much value. I'm a sucker for dungeon crawlers. I have a ton of them, which typically tend to be heavier, more difficult, more expensive, big boxes that you have to carry with you. And even though you have a great and amazing time with my dungeon crawlers, don't get me wrong, I love them. I love my minis, I love my big boards, I love everything. Sometimes I want the same experience packed, distilled in a small box, and this game really delivers that. Very interesting choices, very great system, and overall beautiful art. I just wish there was more things to see this art on, or maybe a campaign that can be maybe something to think about in the future, etc. But on its own, it's a very full game with endless replayability, and exactly what I was seeking in terms of a distilled, compact, easy, friendly, and highly replayable dungeon crawler. But don't get my word for it. Check out if this is something for you, and join me at the end of this video for my final opinion from my first impressions from the game, and why I think it's something you should definitely check it out and have it in your library, not to mention the backpack. Once one of the 6 great dwarven kingdoms of the region, this ancient stronghold was renowned for its rich veins of strange and various metals, especially silver mined from the deep within the mountain. However, relentless raids by goblins and other monsters eventually led to its downfall. Now occupied by goblins, the dwarven mine is a labyrinth of numerous gates and challenging halls. Treasures and valuables await those daring enough to explore its depths. Adventurers from across the region gather to navigate the mine, lured by the promise of untold riches. Take on the role of a hero driven by ambition and determination to fulfill your quest. Complete the mission that led into the dark dungeon Silver Mine and be the winner. Into the Dark Dungeon is a dungeon crawl tabletop game where you can play solo, cooperatively, or competitively. explore randomly generated dungeons, overcome various encounters, complete your quest, and fight to survive. Deliver your completed quest, acquire forgotten knowledge and your loot, and buy what you need for your next exploration. Venture into the dark dungeon once again to take on new quests, discover more riches and become a hero. The game is intended for 1 to 5 players, solo play, or 2 to 4 players that can play cooperatively or competitively, while an additional player can control the encounters that spawn in the dungeon. Its exploration is unique, offering countless possible combinations. I have done a separate prototype unboxing where I focused on showcasing the components, but just briefly to go through the contents of this prototype. Again, keep in mind that this is prototype. It looks really nice, but changes still may happen. Of course, these are going to be notified via the crowdfunding campaign page. I will add the link in the description of the video below. So let's familiarize ourselves with the components. We have a rulebook, we have 56 poker-sized cards, which includes 30 dungeon cards. These cards that on the flip side they have different dungeon chambers for the exploration. We have 4 characters. You see here 2 of those, the warrior and the wizard, and on the side I have added, just for visual aspect, the ranger and the knight. These have their own statistics. We have 4 chest maps, 4 guides, we have 3 NPCs, we have the quest master here, which has a nice table to summarize how quests reward players, the merchant, where you can buy and sell stuff, from potions to weapons to key, tools, etc., and the mystic, which is responsible for the books of magic. There are 11 enemies, 2 by 4 goblins and 3 bosses. This is the backside of the goblins. We have a variety of goblins. For example, you have goblin shamans, this is a goblin warrior, and here are the bosses, which are included 3 in the game. We have 108 mini-sized cards where we have 16 books. We have 8 weapons, 4 backpacks, 12 runes, 6 runes and 6 great runes, 12 potions, 6 master keys, 6 lock maps, 6 tools, 15 torches and 10 coin cards in different denominations. All these are included with this bag, which is the bag for the items. We also have respectively 46 tokens of coins in different denominations of 1, 2, 5, 10 and 20, and I have split them here for easy access. These are containers I use generally for myself. We have 5 unlocked doors. There are also included additionally several goblin symbols, which you can find here. These are icons with the unlock and lock symbol. All sorts of different tokens, like the campfire, like a turn token, the torch, which is also the first player token, and it goes here, just to show you briefly. And we have also some more tokens. We have 2 D6 black dice, one that had red numbers and one that has gold bronze numbers. Okay, we use them for the combat system. We have bags for the dice, cubes and cards. So these are all the components of the game. I have already set up the game for demonstration, so I would be able to showcase how the rules play out essentially. Game preparation. First, you choose the mode of the game. You have a session, a single dungeon exploration, or you can have a campaign, multiple quests. The game can be played as mentioned as solo, cooperative, competitive, or even as arena. For solo, you take 1 or more characters for a single or multiple quest, and you aim to beat for your final score by collecting more coins. For cooperative, you have a session where you help each other complete all quests and then exit the dungeon, or campaign where you continue for consecutive quests until a hero emerges. For competitive mode, in competitive mode players can keep their character's card hidden until used. If you're having a session in competitive mode, the player who has the most coins wins. If you're playing a campaign in competitive mode, the player with the most coins wins after declaring a hero. Last but not least, we have the arena, where you keep your character cards hidden until used. Everyone is an enemy to everyone. You have the sudden death, which is a session. We compete against each other until only 1 character remains. We can have the tournament, where a campaign occurs in the arena mode. Multiple rounds of, for example, a set of 5 can be played. The player with the most wins, last one standing, is crowned the champion. When only 1 character remains, the arena ends instantly. You can have various player configurations in the arena. You can have 2 players, 1 versus 1, or 2 versus 2. You can have 3 players, 1 versus 1 versus 1, or you can have 4 players, 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1, each for their own. So these are the simple the ways that you can play the game. Now I'm going to describe the setup generally, and then we're going to go into the more specifics. For the setup, you place cards in piles with a designated area for discard piles next to them. All the decks from which you draw cards are placed face down. In front of you, you place the character quest, starting items, guide and stash card. In cooperative or competitive mode, you start at the same gate of the dungeon. In arena mode, you set up a predetermined size of a dungeon, including the number of cards and gates, and you can use various arena ideas or create your own. There are examples in the rulebook for predetermined arenas, where each character starts from a different gate. While revealing the dungeon cards, if the paths are not connected, you replace the top card from the dungeon card pile until a connection occurs. Now, I've already laid out the dungeon for illustration purposes only, but you can understand that this is just to show you how the dungeon can start unfolding. So in terms of setup, we have the quest master here, who gives quests, and we have the different level of quests: easy, medium, hard, personal, and their respective rewards. We have the deck of quests here. Again, I've shown you into the prototype unboxing more details, but we have all the quests here, and we're going to start with the quest of the game, each character. We have the merchant. These are the 3 NPCs, by the way, where it has the buy and sell values in between quests or sessions. You can buy and sell or at the end you can buy and sell equipment based on the listing for respective coins, or if you don't want to sell it, you can buy it so that you can acquire more coins. Last but not least, you have the mystic. She's very capable in giving you books. It had 4 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4, and they do all sorts of very unique and powerful things that I'm going to explain later. And this is the respective books deck. We also have the dungeon cards. These are the dungeon cards that you can see. There is a variety of cards, and this adds to the unique dungeon that you're going to be playing each time, which has a lot of value, a lot of replayability in my opinion. You have dungeon gates, where you can either start or exit from, depending on the setup that you're playing. And we start from one such dungeon card, as you see here. We need it for startup purposes. We have 2 dice, the battle dice. We also have the player area. As you can see in setup, you're going to select your character. You're going to add the cubes of one color representing your character for the starting traits, for example torch, life, etc. There are some circles within some squares where you have your starting attributes, and this can increase, of course. For example, here you have an increase in the combat because you added you have the mighty flail as a weapon, which adds you +1, so theoretically the warrior already goes to +2. And then he has also included one rune of attack, which gives him +1 more, and this can happen also in mid game. You acquire more equipment, you modify the traits respectively. In addition, the life is increased from the runes of defense, but it's already at full. Okay, and here you have a +1 torch that you can spend, and you get 1 torch, +1 life. Whenever you spend this health potion, you get 1, and this is the tools. You have 1 charge where you can use it. Okay, for example, our heroes are depicted by different cubes. They have also 1 cube that starts in the dungeon gate: green, blue. Colors may change, purple and orange. Okay, and in the dungeons they're going to be finding out more things like goblin enemies, items and containers to unlock, different things to explore, bosses and so on. But for the sake of this demonstration, I have included just a demonstration of an area, how it can be for 1 hero here and 1 hero there. Each hero also has their own stash where you can keep coins and books. Even if you die, you don't lose them. Here's a reference of the titles that you acquire, and you can track them. Very nice illustration at the back. And also you have player aids. One side is the actions, the list of actions, what happens when you rest, and the dungeon icons as a reminder what you do with the different containers, what you're trying to roll, the traps, etc. So this is double face, so that you can use both for reminder. We also have here, as you can see, the area with the goblins. This is their deck, and the enemies that you're going to be playing, you need to place them face up, and these are the bosses. Okay, so in a nutshell, you use a convenient way to set up the dungeon and you're playing area as you see fit. I've done a bit of squeezing just for my own reference to squeeze everything into the screen, but keep in mind that it's very simple and that's how you start. The player who goes first takes the first player token, which is this one, as I mentioned before, and this serves as a reminder for the dungeon turn or for the player who controls the monsters in the dungeon. You place the chamber cube on the gate card, sorry, the character cube on the gate card. So theoretically, forget about this, nothing exists. You only have in the at least competitive or solo, you start from a dungeon, you enter from a gate, you're outside the gate, and you're going to start moving by spending movement from the entrance and beyond, okay? But just unfolded and connected some of the dungeon rooms just to make it more visually appealing, okay? But for the setup, you're going to have just this card on the left. Unless you're playing arena, where you have a pre-constructed dungeon with gates where players entering from different directions, and then the rest of the cards are face down and you need to enter to explore them. But here it's a free explore. You can explore in any direction. You have an exit and you can draw and add a card respectively. You can escape the dungeon either by exiting through a gate or any time upon completing your quest. For each dungeon card revealed, so let's say I'm entering from here exploring, we'll see how that happens, but keep in mind that for each dungeon card revealed, you place the corresponding cubes on it. You place on containers, and containers can either be like this, which is a crate, or a tomb like this, okay? These are all containers. When you draw a new card, you need to place cubes so that you show that they're unclaimed and you can claim them, or barrels like this, or locked chests like this, okay? In any of those cases, you place white cubes on them. Wherever you have the swords crossing icon, this is an icon where you spawn goblins. Goblins are depicted on the dungeon with the black cubes, okay? Under each black cube there is a goblin until you defeat it, okay? But this is only for the moment you flip a card, you explore. For example, here, if I would add this one, I would add a goblin here, and we have two containers, one barrel, okay, and one sack, but I need to enter to explore it, okay? So again, black cubes for goblins, gray cubes for traps. We have traps like this one. Here's a trap and here's a trap, and you're going to ask immediately why the heck you're going to walk into a trap. It could be one of the quests to disarm traps, for example, okay? Other than that, everything should be it would be something to avoid, unless it blocks your way out because you need to move from a corridor, like in this case. And you use red cubes for campfires. You see we have campfires where when you rest next to a campfire, you increase one torch and one health. More on that later, but these are under the red cubes. So this is a setup, very, very easy, and this is how you start the game. You just draw a card, populate it, you know, if it's a gate card, and then you are ready to start. The rest is going to happen through the game, through exploration. Objective: become the hero of the region by acquiring titles, wealth, power, and occasionally vanquishing your antagonists. You can play the cooperative or competitive, where the player who collects the most coin wins, or the arena, where you need to be the one last standing in order to win, or have the most wins in a tournament. The rulebook is color coded. For example, when you use blue, it refers to the cooperative, and when it uses yellow it refers to the competitive, and when it uses red it refers to the arena. But how you acquire titles? You can acquire titles, 6 different types of titles, and this can be acquired, and there is a reminder on your stash card. Each player has a stash card, and here's the reminder of the cards, of the titles. You can become a vagabond, which requires the completion of an easy difficulty quest. You can become a seeker, which requires the completion of an easy difficult quest. You can become a pathfinder, which requires the completion of a medium difficulty quest. You can become an adventurer, again a medium quest completed to acquire it. You can become an explorer, which requires the completion of a hard difficult quest. And last but not least, you can become a hero, which requires the completion of a hard difficult difficulty quest, okay? And you see in the brackets you have the reminder of the difficulty. Now the next thing that I want to mention are the characters. We have 4 characters, as I've said before. Here you see the wizard and the warrior, but we have also the ranger and the knight. And maybe more can be provided or unlocked during the campaign. I don't know, we need to monitor that. Hopefully, yes. So for the characters, you select one of the 4 characters provided, either by choice or at random. Each character performs better in one of the 4 attributes compared to the others. You select one of the 4 sets of character cubes, for example, orange or purple, and you place them on the attributes marked with circles. If you check carefully, there are some circles on the attributes. These are the starting values for the attributes. For example, for the combat, wizard has 1, and for the speed he has 4. These of course may be increased in the course of the game by adding items and different things that you can find in the dungeon, and then you can move them up. Then you place one allocated cube on the gate card, here on the gate card, and you keep the last cube for tracking titles if necessary on your stash card over here. Now I'm going to zoom in one of the character cards so that we can focus on the attributes. Now for the attributes, let's start with the warrior. Here you see this icon. This is for the attack. You add your attack attribute to your combat rolls and loot rolls. The sum is referred to as your hit score. So attack plus roll, combat roll or loot roll equals the hit score. Okay, so that's the first attribute. The second one, which shows a boot, it of course is an attribute for movement, indicates the number of squares you can move. If you use a run, you increase your movement by up to 2 squares if you take no other actions this turn. Then something unique and interesting in this game is the torch. You use it to uncover new holes and for rerolls. When revealing a new dungeon card, you must use one torch if available, meaning if you have any to spend. Without torches, you can still explore new holes but cannot run or see what item goblins are carrying. When you open a dungeon and you reveal a goblin, it comes with an item card drawn from the item deck face down, unless you have torches. In this case, you see what they're carrying and you can target them or avoid them respectively. Last but not least, keep in mind that the torches are used for rerolls. You may use a torch to reroll a die while looting, facing traps or in combat. If all torches are used, a random boss enemy enters the dungeon from the gate where the player who used all torches previously entered. Last, we have life, indicates the number of wounds you can withstand before defeat. Attributes cannot exceed the maximum value written on the card. Bonuses from weapons and runes add to their values on the character card respectively. Another important concept in the game is the inventory. You see it has this icon on the hero card which shows a specific amount of cards for the inventory. There are the 3 cards or items. So each hero can carry up to 3 items. That's, you have the 3 icons there, 3 items beneath a character card. That means below you can carry up to 3 cards, and immediately you can ask why this character has more than 3. The reason is because you can increase the inventory capacity by adding a backpack. The backpack takes 1 of the 3 items capacity, but then it gives 3 more itself. So that's a way to increase your capacity, but keep in mind that you can only have 1 backpack. So our runes can be attached to weapons, and keep in mind that you can equip only 1 weapon at a time. So the weapon is included here. You have the ribbon matching the ribbon for the sword, which is the icon of the weapon, and you have 1 weapon on the right side of your main hero card. Okay, you can attach to it both great runes and smaller runes. Okay, but they just make your weapon bigger or better, I should say, but you can only have 1 weapon. If you want to use another weapon, you need to drop those and get another weapon for a single weapon on the right side of your character card. Again, on the left side there is an exclamation where you can put the quests that you are pursuing. Okay, and you can track them with a cube, how many are still needed to be done in order to, I don't know, recovered or explored or defeated goblins or unlocked chests. For example, in this case I have unlocked 1 chest by showing this, and you track your quest. Okay, beneath again your character card you have your items, and the inventory is 3. Some of the cards you have in your backpack can be used to increase your torch, or can be used as a health potion, to give you one life, or they have specific number of uses to open locked doors, chests, etc. So this is what you need to know in terms of the inventory. Now, a word about quests. You choose quest from a quest board. Okay, you can either have the quest board and beneath it the quests open for players to choose from, or you can select one randomly. It's up to the players how they want to do it best. On the back flip of the chess quest board, you have the NPC of the quest maker, and it has a reminder of the rewards that you gain for delivering or fulfilling an easy, medium, hard, or personal quest. Okay, and these are the rewards: coins and items, coins and book, and coins respectively, depending on the tier. In any case, if you have quests revealed, okay, you just make piles of sorry, these are not the quests, these are the items. If you have quests, if you want to have quests revealed, instead of selecting randomly, you can have them face up, where you have the different quests open and players can select from it. Okay, and if you're playing consecutive sessions for a campaign, maybe that's even better, because you can have them as a display, and players, okay, this would be here, okay, this is a gate, this is a hard gate, etc, etc. Okay, you can have all sorts of different quests. I'm not going to go into more detail, but keep in mind that either way, whether you select one randomly or you choose one, either by picking up the deck or having them as a display, as I mentioned, you start with a quest. You place the quest card to the left of your hero card, as you see here, and there is an exclamation mark matching an exclamation, so this is my quest for the warrior. And the ribbons with the icon will connect. You use the cube to track the progress if necessary. So for example, with this quest I have, let's say I start the game and I need to loot 4 chests. I have 0, so once I have looted 2, I would be somehow like that. If I manage to loot 4, then I complete this quest. So you can use the cube to track the progress if necessary, and you visit the quest master and complete the quest when its requirements are met. You deliver any items if required to gain the reward and title. Personal quests don't grant the title, and you're not required to deliver items for personal quests. The quest categories are easy. Among all these, you can have and these, there are more, okay, just to reveal some. You can have easy tier, which is the cartographer, the headhunter, the crates, and the lockpicking. Medium, which is the alchemist, the scholar, the barrels, and the campfire. Hard, which is the war master, gates, rogue, and tombs. And last, there are some personal quests like silver touch, chests, goblin bane, and wayfinder. Each of those are explained in detail in the rulebook, what you need to do, not only on the card, but you have details on the rulebook, how to fulfill them. And here, just to give you an idea, for example, for the cartographer, you need to explore 6 halls by revealing 6 dungeon cards. For the headhunter, you need to defeat 4 goblins. For the crates quest, you need to successfully loot 3 crates. Lockpicking, unlock 2 doors. Alchemist, collect all 3 potions, strength, speed, and health potion. And so on. There is a variety of different quests. Okay, there is a bit of, I should say, there's thematic touch to the quest, and there's a lot of difference between quests and what it's expected for each of those. Actions on the character turn. On your turn, you can choose to perform all actions, some actions, or none at all, and skip your turn. You can take actions in any order. So let's see a list of the actions on the left, and we will go in a bit more detail with a couple of words for each of those. You can move, run, you can interact, loot, unlock, disarm, trigger, combat, short rest. You can use equipment, pick up, drop, and trade. All of these are actions you can do. So let's start with the move. You can move as many squares as the character's current speed allows. For example, in this case, the speed of the warrior is 4, as you can see. The speed attribute, the move attribute is on 4. Okay, this can be increased with items or benefits or even potions. That means that the warrior can move up to 4 spaces. If you don't take any other actions, the character can instead run, adding +2 to their movement. Torches are required for running, so keep that in mind. You cannot run if you don't have torch, and you can move in any direction but not diagonally. Characters can pass through other characters but not through enemies. Goblins can pass through other goblins but not through characters, and movement cannot end on a space occupied by another character, goblin, or object. if the object is claimed, for example the crate, still you cannot go on there, but you can go next to it, okay, like when you're claiming it. So let's say in this case the warrior has 4 attributes, so he can move 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, he could even move, let's say he starts from here and he still has 4 movement. He can move 1, 2, 3, 4 and go next to this container, which is a crate, in order to try to loot it, for example. How you interact? You interact, for example, by looting. If your hit score is equal to or greater than the required container's value, you can loot it. Otherwise, you find nothing of value after a quick search. You can reroll by using a torch, spending a torch, meaning moving your torch to the left, you use a torch, and you can reroll. You search more carefully. Now, that being said, let me show you the second player aid, which shows all the different types of containers that you can loot. You can have the sack, the crate, the barrel, the chest, the tomb, the campfire, etc. The campfire cannot be looted, just that gives you 1 health next to it. Okay, but these are the different types of let's say containers. I'll talk more on that later, and how you what you need to score. But the value is the hit value that you need to have equal or more. Another interact action you can do is you can unlock. You can use a master key if you have uses, meaning if you have a cube. Basically, when you acquire this master key, it comes with charges, so it goes there. If you use it once, it goes there, and then when you discard it, you have 2 uses, and then you have to throw away the item. So you unlock with a master key, use 1 charge, or with tools. This is another option to unlock it with tools, but it has 1 charge, the tools, and you use it to unlock, for example, anything that can be locked, like a door. Okay, when you unlock a door, for example, you can use this icon to place it on it, this token, to indicate that this is unlocked for others to pass by. You can disarm or trigger. You disarm a trap with tools, and then you discard the item, or trigger it and roll for the outcome. Again, the dungeon player aid has what happens with the trap and how you use it, more on that later, but this is one of the interactions you can have. You can reroll again by using torch. You can combat, you can initiate combat when you're adjacent to an enemy. So if my, let's say, warrior moves and at some point comes next to this goblin, okay, he goes in, he explores. So forget about the explore cards. Again, I have them open so that it shows better on the screen. Okay, when I move from the edge of the card, I can explore. Then I will populate it with goblins if there are goblins. And then if I move next to an enemy, adjacent orthogonally, I will have the possibility to combat. You initiate combat when adjacent to the enemy. Another option you can do is you can short rest. You end your turn adjacent to a campfire to gain 1 life and 1 torch. And campfires are having this icon. I can show you how they look like also in the icon reference. This is a campfire, okay, where you can have a rest and gain 1 life and 1 torch. Another action you can do is you can use equip. You can use an item. After using an item, you place it on the discard item pile. You can equip a weapon and on a rune. You can pick up, drop, or trade. You pick up an item. If you're on the same square as the item, you take the card into your inventory, if the space is available. You can drop an item. When you drop an item where you are, you place a white cube on the same square and the item card next to it. Anyone can pick it up, so you can drop items for your companions to pick them up as they follow your path, for example, since you have something better of use, or use it, or you help them in that way. Anyone can pick up a dropped item. There can even be multiple items on the same square. And you can also trade with other characters by being on adjacent squares. That means that if these 2 heroes at some point are next to each other, they can trade with one another equipment and items. After searching a container, you may choose to leave them where you stand. So for example, if you were here and you search a container and you find something that it's no use of you, you can decide to leave it there for another character to pick it up later. Okay, so you just leave it there and the card next to it. Exploring. Exploration occurs when revealing new dungeon cards while moving from a square on the edge of a card. So let's say the wizard is about to take a move following this path to the unknown. While moving from a square on the edge of the card, you take a new card from the dungeon card pile and you place it adjacent to your dungeon card your character is on, matching one side. You can choose which one of the two. So you can either place it like that or like that. In any case, once you do, you continue moving. So moving from the current dungeon card to a new one requires using a torch if available. So if you have a torch, you need to spend it to move. If you don't have a torch, you still move, so it doesn't stop exploration and movement. Okay, just that if you have it, you will spend it. That's a way to eat, let's say, or consume your torches. And a path connection is not necessary. You cannot place a dungeon card to block a gate card, and there may be times where the odds are against you. It's better to exit the dungeon through the gate instead of continuing to search for a specific item. The longer you stay in the dark dungeon, the more dangerous it becomes. While revealing a card, again, as I mentioned, I'm going to be placing on the spots the matching icons. In this case, I found out that there's a goblin guarding this path, and here there is a crate for me to explore and loot if I want to. So this is how exploring works. Again, in the arena, if you're playing arena, keep in mind that the character keeps their items and coins after the end of the arena. Defeating a character in the arena gives you 10 coins. You're trying to get most coins there, of course. Also. And you have examples. For example, you can have a 1 versus 1 where you have a suggested predefined dungeon for 1 versus 1. One hero is going to enter from this entry and one from that. Okay, this is an example of 2, 1 versus 1 versus 1. So entry point, entry point, entry point for the hero, the 3 different heroes. And this is an example of 3, 2 versus 2, or 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1. Basically, you see again the entrance points. You place the campfire token in the most central dungeon card, and the first player to explore this hole gains 1 torch and 1 life as a small bonus. The dungeon. Standing on or adjacent to a square, you can interact with the following. First of all, we can have a combat. So if you are next to you're here, in this case there is a goblin, you see. So if you are next to a goblin, an enemy, you can interact with it by initiating combat where adjacent to the enemy. If you're next to a trap, and you know traps have, if they are not used, they're not deactivated, they have this gray cube. So if you're next to a trap, when stepping on a trap, you can either disarm it. So theoretically, you have to be on the trap. Okay. You can either disarm it if you have the tools, or roll 1d6 for the trap outcome, the trap card itself, which is here. So you can see, I'm just going to place it there for convenience. Okay. You can see that if you roll 1, you lose 1 life. If you roll 2, you lose 2 life. If you roll 3, you lose 1 turn. You can't do anything else. It becomes the next player's turn or the enemy's turn. If you roll 4, you lose 1 torch. If you roll 5, you lose 1 of your items you carry. Ouch. And if you roll 6, you evade the trap and continue with your turn. Okay, which is the best outcome for you. Now let's move to the other icon, which is this one on the side. It is the campfire, which has a red square. If you are next to the campfire, again your hero is next to the campfire like that. That means that when adjacent to the campfire, you can heal 1 life and increase your torch count by 1. This cannot be used if there are enemies in the same dungeon card. That means that you first have to kill all the goblins in the same card, on the same card, and then you can use it. The campfire can only be used once. Afterward, the campfire wood is exhausted and the cube is removed. Now, you can also loot all these white symbols that you see, which could be either chests or barrels or tombs, etc. You can loot them, and for you to loot them, you need to be adjacent to them. To loot a container, you need to be adjacent to it and have a hit score equal to the greater to the container's requirement. So the hit score means that you need to roll 1d6 plus you add the attack attribute, and looting roll is the die roll for looting and container. Rerolls are possible with torches, of course. And here you can see again that there is this card which shows on the left If you're trying to loot a sack, you roll a die. If the outcome is 2 or 1, you take 1 coin. If the outcome is 3 or 4, you take 2 coins. And if it's 5 or 6, you take 3 coins. If you're trying to loot a crate, which is the one below, if you roll a 1d6 plus the attack attribute, okay? In this case, you add the attack attribute, not like with the sack. If the result is 4 or higher, you take 1 item from the top of the item deck. If you're trying to loot a barrel, you roll 1d6 plus your attack attribute again. If the result is 5 or higher, you take 1 item and increase the torch attribute if space is available. For the chest, which is below, you can use a key or tools to unlock it. You take 2 item cards, keep 1 and place the other in the discard pile. It's the only way to unlock the chest, because you need a key or tools in order to unlock them. You cannot roll here. Last but not least, you have the tomb icon, which takes 2 squares. You roll a 1d6 plus the attack attribute. If the result is 7 or higher, you take 2 items. Neither characters nor monsters may step on a container or campfire, so keep that in mind. It's not like the trap where you step on it. The combat. Attacking. You roll 1 die and add the attack attribute to determine your hit score. In this case, the warrior would add 1 die, let's say one with the yellow numbers, and add the attack attribute, which is in this case 3, so the total would be his hit score. When attacking a goblin, you roll both dice. 1 die represents your attack and the other represents the enemy attack. Let's say the red one represents goblin for this example. You add the respective combat attributes to each die, the one from the warrior to the warrior die, and one from the goblin, he has +1, to the goblin die. And then what you do is, once you add the respective combat attributes to each, the combatant with a higher total wins the fight, and the loser decreases their life by 1. The combat continues until 1 combatant reaches 0, and the defeated character items are dropped to the ground. So let's say, for example, again, yellow is for my dwarf warrior, and red is for the goblin shaman, which is the enemy over here, squeezed it over there. So I'm rolling. So let's say I have 3 plus 3, 6 attribute, and the goblin has 4 plus 1, 5. So it's 6 versus 1. I win because I have a higher hit score. Okay, and in this case I would reduce the life of the goblin shaman from 2 to 1. If it is reduced from 1 to 0, then I have defeated, of course, in the next turn, because we have second combat turn until one of the 2 drops down. You can flee combat. The flee combat, to flee combat, you declare that you want to flee instead of attacking. If you roll higher than the enemy's roll, you successfully leave combat and can move as much as your movement allows. If your roll is lower or equal than the enemy's roll, you take -1 life damage and then move. This roll is conducted without adding the attack attribute, and you can flee combat either during your turn or enemy's turn. During combat, items cannot be used, and you can use a torch, of course, to reroll your die. So again, hit score is the die you roll on your attack plus the attack attribute. So that's very simple. This is how battle occurs. The dungeon turn. Upon revealing a new dungeon card with a goblin icon, for example, remember when I revealed this card, there was a goblin icon. You place a black cube on it. Okay, that always happens during exploration. You draw an enemy card. In this case, let's say I drew the goblin warrior. You add the statistics on their card respectively, and you add below the enemy goblin a card drawn from the item deck. If you have torches, you can see what they're carrying, and this card should be face up. So that's your loot. If you don't have torches, this card is face down. Okay? Then, when a character's turn ends, it is the dungeon's turn. After each character, the dungeon plays itself. All remaining goblins will move towards the nearest character and attack. So let's say in this case I was here. Okay? And let's say this was also, our heroes are here. Okay? And let's forget about these cards. Let's say our dungeon has 1, 2 cards. Okay? That means we have and I just entered because I need to have explored. Okay? With my warrior. So focus on these 2 cards. Let's say our dungeon is 2 cards whole and size. That means that once the dungeon turn takes place, the goblins are going to move. You check their move attribute. In this case it is 5 from the card. That means he will move 5, taking the shortest route. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case he's diagonal, he cannot attack, but if somehow he was closer and he reached me, he would also attack, performing an attack like before. You can pick up the item if you have defeated the enemy, and when the character turn ends, it is a dungeon's turn. Okay, always keep that in mind. If you attack on your own, you take if you win, you take the item. If it's a dungeon's turn and they attack you, again, when you defeat it, you take the item. All remaining goblins will move towards the nearest character and attack always. A boss will appear when the character loses a character, even a single one if you're playing multi-character, when a character loses all their torch, or when the last 8th goblin from the draw deck is revealed. Okay, if that happens, if the 8th goblin is on the dungeon, whichever occurs first, the boss will enter, and the boss will target the closest character and chase them using the shortest non-diagonal path available. Upon defeating the boss, and again these are the cards for the bosses, just to show you. I have this torch in the middle, not just the swords. I have 3 bosses, the warg and the troll warrior. Okay, so upon defeating the boss, you will draw 2 cards and loot 2 random item cards and 2 silver coins. If a goblin is carrying a torch, it will call for help. So keep that in mind, because let me show you some of the goblins again. You see, he doesn't have a torch, but he has a torch. So if a goblin has a torch, they will call for help. That means that another goblin will appear behind you during the master's turn, and you check the goblin's card to see if the torch attribute is 1. The special power of the goblins, it's again shown here at the bottom. If there are 2 or more goblins in the same hole, the same card, they gain +1 on their attack attribute, because they are like synergizing. If the number of goblins drops to 1 in the hole, then they lose this attack attribute, of course. This is discard, by the way, for the enemies of 1. When leaving a dungeon card while goblins remain on it, they will chase you and attempt to attack you. When a new dungeon card is revealed that contains goblins with a lost map, they will remain stationary until someone enters the hole. When a character enters a hole with goblins and has available torches, they can see the items the goblins are carrying, otherwise the items remain unknown and they're face down, only revealed when the goblins are defeated. Goblins can pass through traps unharmed, as they are the ones who set up those traps. However, they cannot unlock any locked doors. Items. When you acquire an item in your inventory, remove the white cube from the dungeon, and all used items are placed in the discard item pile next to the items pile. When the item pile is empty, you reshuffle the discarded pile and place the cards face down on the items card pile. When equipping a weapon or rune, increase the corresponding attributes accordingly, as it makes sense with the attributes. Now let's see examples of the item cards. For example, you can have potions, 12 in total. You can have strength potion, 4 of them. When used, this potion grants +2 combat and loot rolls for your current turn. You can have speed potion, which is this one. It grants you, once used, +3 to movement for the current turn. You can have a health potion or defense potion. There are 4 of them again, and when used, the potion grants +1 to life. You can have runes. There are 2x3 simple runes, like this one with 1 banner, and they are the greater runes, 2x3 different types. Runes must be attached to a weapon. That means once you have a weapon like this one, you can attach to the right side either a great rune or a normal rune. Okay, but once you do that, you contribute to the attributes of the weapon or to I don't know, your movement or life, whatever, based on the contribution. Okay, runes must be attached to a weapon to further increase your attributes. Each rune permanently increases 1 attribute, and the attribute decreases when the rune is removed. Great runes allow you to attach a simple rune to them, with a maximum of 2 runes, 1 great and 1 simple, on the attached weapon. Cannot go more than that. You also have coin cards like this one. This is an example of a coin card. You have 10 in total. You collect the equivalent token coins in your inventory. You place the item card on the discard pile, and the coins can be used in the merchant or traded between characters. Now, let's focus on the right side, where we have weapons like the axe of defense. Each weapon, when equipped only one at a time, increases the attribute, and runes can be attached to it, as we've seen before, to further increase attributes. Weapons can be equipped on the right side of the character card. If you remove a weapon to your inventory or drop it, immediately you decrease the attributes from the weapon and runes attached to it. Runes must be placed in the inventory or dropped. You can choose which items to hold in your inventory, and you make best use of it. Maybe it's a better, if you find a better weapon, maybe you can pick up the better one and then drop this one for later use or for one of your allies, unless you're playing competitive. Then you have the master key, like this one. The master key, there are 6 in total, can unlock all doors and chests. It has 2 charges. You track it with a cube on it, a white cube. You have tools, like this one. Tools can be used to unlock a door or chest or disarm a trap. They have 1 charge. You have torches, like this one. You use to increase your torch attribute. Torches are very important when exploring a dungeon card. You spend 1 torch when exploring a new hole. If you don't have any more torches, you explore in the dark and you cannot run or see what items the goblins are carrying. You have the lost map, which is a scroll of a lost map of the silver mine. When used to reveal an adjacent dungeon card without exploring it, you don't have to move on it, and without losing a torch, goblins on the revealed card don't attack you. Last, we have the backpack, which is this one. There are 4 of them in the deck. You take one. It takes one of the 3 spaces in your inventory, but provides an additional 3 spaces itself, allowing you to carry a maximum of 5 items in total. Only 1 backpack per character may be used. Rest. Completing a dungeon. After completing the requirements of your quest or needing to escape the dangers of the dungeon, you exit the dungeon by moving past a gate. If there are no more enemies in the dungeon, you can instantly leave. Collect all cubes, collect all item cards in one pile, collect all dungeon cards and shuffle them, excluding 1 gate to use for the next dungeon. And when you complete a dungeon, the first player to complete the quest gets 5 coins, the second 3 coins, and the third 1 coin. If the quest fails, no reward is given respectively. After each arena, if you're playing the arena mode, all characters gain 20 coins. For the NPC, the non-player characters, you can visit the quest master, which is here, as I mentioned, the merchant or the mystic, in any order and as many times as you want. In cooperative and competitive mode, the player who finishes their quest first will be the first to visit the NPCs, followed by the other players in order they finish their quests. In the arena mode, the winner will go first. So let's focus on the quest master. So for the quest master, you deliver the completed quest, not personal quests, along with any required items to receive your reward and accept a new quest. The quest master announces available quests and shares information about them. He also collects the required items if needed and gives the rewards. If you're playing the arena mode, you don't visit the quest master. Quest master rewards are simple: easy difficult quest 5 coins, medium difficult quest 5 coins and 1 random item, hard difficult quest 5 coins, 1 book and 1 of your choice, and personal quest, whatever you find in the dungeon is yours, plus 5 coins. While choosing a new quest, if you already have the required items, you can instantly deliver it, even if they were found in the dungeon or bought by the merchant if you visit the merchant first. The first to gain the title of hero also receives 20 coins. Speaking of the merchant, we have him here. The merchant, you sell unnecessary items and buy new ones if you have the available coins. The traveling merchant deals in various goods but does not accept partially used items. The item available for purchase are all items in the item card pile, so you pick up the whole deck and choose. You can trade with other characters as well. Last but not least, we have the mystic, where she is a person for whom you can buy books of knowledge from the mystic. She has a vast collection of books containing powerful knowledge that grants you various abilities to use in the dungeon. You can have tier 1 books that cost 20 coins, tier 2 costs 25, tier 3 costs 30 coins, and tier 5 costs 35 coins. Characters can hold up to 4 books in their stash. I remind you, this is our stash, and on your stash you can only hold coins and books. Now, a brief mention on the books. You have a variety of books. You pick and buy which ones you want, depending on the tier. For example, this is a tier 4. They have very powerful boosts that you can use, or even charges in some cases. Okay. There is a very detailed description of all of the books, as you can see in the rulebook, where, for example, you can gain the flick combat book, which is a tier 1. You can flick combat without receiving damage, for example, and they're all explained in the rulebook respectively. Now, that being said, Just a word about the stash. As I mentioned, you keep your coins and books in your stash. If you die in a dungeon, you lose all items and coins you carry, not what it's in the stash. Books are knowledge that you have acquired, not items. Once obtained, you can keep them in your stash. Okay, the books that you acquire. Now, you can also recover. So let's say in your adventures in the dungeon, you can choose to spend 5 coins to rest and restore your attributes, life and torch, to the original starting values indicated by the circles, then add the bonus attributes from the equipped weapons and on runes, and otherwise your character attributes will remain unchanged. You take the next quest and delve back into the dark dungeon. You shuffle the item cards and form a new pile, and if you died in the dungeon, you lose all things that you carry and the quest is failed. Coins and books in your personal chest cannot be lost, stash cannot be lost in any way. You can also play the insane mode. You can take the role of a goblin or group of goblins and explore the dark dungeon. No quest, no survival, you against all. Adjust the inventory to carry 3 items and equip a weapon. As I mentioned, there is a very nice reference guide for all the icons at the back of the rulebook, and this is everything you need to know on how to play into the dark dungeon Silver Mine. So there you have it. This is everything you need to know on how to play into the dungeon, the dark dungeon Silver Mine. As I mentioned in my introduction, there are so many things to love about the game. You gotta love the different ways that you can play the game. You can play it as competitive, you can play it as cooperative, you can play it as solo, you can play it as arena, 1 versus 1, you know, 2 versus 2, team-based, etc. No matter which type of game you select to play, one thing is guaranteed: you're going to have a tremendous fun, and you're going to have fun through the simple, fast-forward pace of the game, the compact design, the different dungeons that they are endless, literally endless. They come together because you know, you just pick up a card and then the card has a whole chamber of different corridors and rooms and goblins and traps and things to discover and crates for looting. But the way you combine them and the way you you go deeper into the dungeon and you make the map bigger, let's say, through exploration, the different the dungeon will be from one play to the other. So that on its own has a ton of replayability. On top of that, the combat system is very easy, straightforward. You just roll die, you add the contribution from the attack tributes, and then you check for who has the highest score, and then you just whoever is you know, behind, you just get 1 life until there is either the monsters or the heroes drop. You can also, of course, flee so that you can avoid difficult situations, but that gets even more interesting when you play you know, in arena mode, where you also attack different heroes. So you start from different sides of the pre-constructed board, which has the different rooms face down, so you need to go in and explore them. You don't just draw a card from the pile and add it. You just flip it and rotate it and add it, and then at some point through the exploration, the opposite sides of the different players, either 2 or 3 or 4, they will meet and clash will begin, because then the other heroes are also your enemies and you're trying to also wear them down and win them, because you gain also their loot and the ability to win inside of them. The cooperative game is very interesting because you're trying to fulfill quests. Now the quest is something very straightforward. You can just focus on one quest and have a very quick session of 20 minutes, you know, or 15 minutes to trying to fulfill your quest by exploring the dungeon, either as solo or you know, with your friends together. So you can trying to unlock, for example, 4 chests by, you know, using charges from your master keys, finding the keys if you don't have them, or start with the keys, and then you can optimize to go and find through exploration chests, unlock them, and fulfill this quest, and theoretically finish, so that you can deliver it to the quest master and gain coins and points. You can, in between sessions, if you play campaign, a series of quests, you reset the dungeon, you start again, for example, and then you can pick up a new quest, and you can see who becomes the hero phase with acquiring a specific number of titles or conditions met, and then you compare your the money you have collected, and then you see who is the winner of the game. If you're playing competitive, if you're playing cooperative, everybody's assisting each other, so you can also, once you've done with your quest, you have to assist your friends, or you can do it even before that, so that they can also fulfill their quest, because as soon as everybody fulfills their quest and there are no enemies, we can escape from the dungeon. The more we stay in the dungeon, the more difficult it becomes, the more possibilities for us to be trapped, to be overwhelmed by goblins and bosses, and of course the more difficult it becomes, because after all we can revive some of our health by sitting next to campfires, but there's so much, so many enemies that you have to, to fend off. 8 plus the boss, that it won't be enough for you to just roam endlessly and pick and choose what you want from the loot. So you have to really value your strategic, where you push and where you just move around or sneak. Moving in the dungeon is as smooth as and easy as anyone would imagine. You just use your move attribute and you move around. You step into traps either intentionally to try to disarm them so you fulfill a specific quest, or because it's the only way around to pass through a corridor because goblins are on your tail and you're trying to get away, for example. Different strengths and weaknesses with the different characters. You play with 4 characters. You can even play a single character, which I love. Sometimes I just want to play one character and I don't want to play 4 characters in the dungeon crawler. And this is one of my biggest complaints. Even though some games have low maintenance, they force you to play all of the heroes. For some games it's manageable, for some games it takes too much space on your table. Sometimes I just want to play 1 or 2 heroes. Here you can either play a solo character or 2 characters or 3 characters, or split them between players, or 4 characters, etc. There are different variants for the game. You can play with a different difficulty as well if you want, and all together, because I'm just rushing to give you all different perks and pluses of the game, I think it brings a lot of value. And I always wanted a dungeon crawler that fits in a very small box. I have some small deck size dungeon crawlers that they don't really scratch the feeling of the dungeon crawler. This really does, because it has all the aspects I would expect from a dungeon crawler without the extra rules. Of course, it has cubes, it has small cards, so it takes small footprint on the table, but most importantly it's more compact, more cheap, and you can put it in your backpack and have it with you all the time. So there is no way I will be left with without a dungeon crawler on my vacation, on my weekend trip, on my I don't know, my flight to somewhere, it's a different place to go for a business trip or something, because I'm always going to have a dungeon crawler moving forward with me anytime, with a lot of gameplay and a lot of value. So check it out. I'm going to add a link in the description of the video so you can subscribe to the Kickstarter campaign launch for the game, and I really think it's something that you should definitely check it out. It's a very, very well crafted game with a lot of love, and most importantly with a lot of replay value for anyone who seeks a compact dungeon crawler. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next time, many thanks for watching.